Hi everyone, massive well done for getting through paper 2. With papers 1 and 2 being back to back, this is a big deal to get to this point. You've done so well, so much hard work will have paid off at this stage. But don't think that the economics journey is over. We have a big bang to finish with, paper 3. You know, evidence from the last few years is that paper 3 is often the highest scoring paper of the two. It's a massive opportunity for you all, regardless of how paper 1 and paper 2 have gone. Hopefully great, in which case this is a chance to solidify that top grade. But even if they haven't quite gone to plan, you're feeling a bit low, paper 3 is a huge opportunity for you to rescue your grade, to still get a very top grade at the end. So it's important that we're still sharp, we're still focusing for this paper, we're still revising hard for it. And that's exactly what this video is going to do for you, giving you key tips, key advice, how to use this final time really well, but also a detailed breakdown of the paper in minute detail, time management, the exact structure of the paper, techniques that you need to use, gold dust coming your way. You want to be taking it all in, watching all the way to the end. Let's start with key advice. Pay absolutely no attention to predictions. If you're hearing predictions, completely disregard them. It's not worth getting your mind wrapped up with predictions because, simply put, nobody knows what's going to be coming up in paper 3. If you look at the last few years, totally random topic areas, totally random context, nobody could have predicted those. It's not worth getting your mind sucked into all of this nonsense, to be honest with you. And nothing to worry about either, because the content that's going to be assessed in paper 3 is the same content you revised for paper 1, the same content you revised for paper 2. The same micro macro content that's in your syllabus is all that can be assessed. Nothing outside of that. So you don't need to worry in that sense. You're keeping your content ticking over from micro macro. It's that's going to come up in paper 3. But also now all the essay questions that will feature will be tied to extracts, and the extracts will be so much better than they were in paper 1 and paper 2. Literally everything you need to write these essays in paper 3 will be in the extracts. So you have that to help you as well. So nothing to worry about in terms of predictions. Don't get wrapped up in that. It's the pointless exercise. It's a pointless waste of your time. Just, I would say, keep your content ticking over and you'll be good. Having said that, it is worth weighing up major topic areas that haven't featured predominantly in paper 1 and paper 2. They're much more likely to be big essay questions in paper 3. In terms of the remaining time left before paper 3, I recommend two things. It's content mastery. You want your content to be absolutely razor sharp. The same notes you made for paper 1, the same notes you made for paper 2, go back over those and make sure, yes, your micro macro content is really good still. But also it's knowing your paper inside out, and it's preparing for the unique elements of paper 3 that are different to papers 1 and 2. And that's what this breakdown coming is going to do for you. It's gold dust coming your way. Take everything down. Know that what's coming was pre-recorded, so I look a bit different in what's coming, but still gold dust nonetheless. Enjoy it and really focus on the advice coming your way. So the paper 3 is going to be split into two sections, section A and section B. Section A is going to consist of 30 multiple choice questions. Now these questions can be on anything in the course, micro and macro. But these questions, guys, are absolute gifts. Multiple choice questions are lovely questions. It's a chance for you to gain seriously high marks. And whenever we're given these wonderful gifts, we should be thankful to the economics gods for helping us through, giving us a chance to make major gains and score very high marks. So be thankful, be happy. This is a great chance for you to perform very strongly and score very high marks. Now, the key with multiple choice is knowing your content really well. So as I said before, content mastery is very important, both in micro and macro, but you have to be practicing multiple choice questions. We have so many past paper questions to do, lots of previous OCR paper 3s for you to look at, and just do all the multiple choice questions that have come up in the past. Practice them. But maybe as a deeper way to practice multiple choice, it's not a case of just picking the correct answer and moving on. Think about why an answer is correct. Think about why other answers are incorrect. That's excellent added practice of multiple choice. You're adding to your content mastery. OCR tend to follow very similar formulas for multiple choice questions, very similar styles. So by practicing all the previous questions, you'll be in a very good place for this year's paper 3 multiple choice questions. What I'm going to do now, though, is actually give you advice whereby you can hit the highest marks with multiple choice. You can get the correct answers even if you don't necessarily know the answer. So follow these tips very carefully with multiple choice. First thing is to highlight exactly what the question is asking. You know, multiple choice questions, there's often so much waffle, so much unnecessary writing, especially when a diagram is involved or there's a chart or a table. The first few lines of the question normally are just describing what the diagram is showing or what the table is illustrating, what the chart is illustrating. But we've got eyes, right? We have eyes. With our eyes, we can see what the diagram is showing, what the table is illustrating or the chart is illustrating. We don't need to read unnecessary waffle and boggle our mind when we have so many multiple choice questions to do. So highlighting what the question is actually asking will focus your mind on what you're looking for in the answer. But also highlighting keywords, again, just to keep your mind focused to avoid silly errors. That's key tip number one. Even if you think the question is good, highlighting in that regard is only going to help you. Second tip is know how the 4 answers are written by examiners. You know, out of the 4 answers, there is always going to be a distractor answer. That is an answer that seems like it might be correct, but actually it's a wrong answer. Examiners are horrible people. They set traps for you. A distractor is a trap for you to fall into. So no, there is always going to be a distractor. There is always going to be a correct answer, obviously. So you've got a correct answer and a distractor always for each multiple choice. That means there are going to be 2 clearly wrong answers. So if you're struggling to get the correct answer, you should start by eliminating the 2 clearly wrong answers. Then you're left with the answer and the distractor. And hopefully when it's a 50-50 like that, your economic skill can kick in. You're more likely to get the correct answer from a 50-50 than you are from a 1 in 4. Yeah, and hopefully in that regard, you can actually get the answer correct. That's a very useful tip. Third major piece of advice is scribble things down. Write down everything that's going on in your head. That might mean a chain of analysis you're scribbling down. Maybe it's an equation, maybe it's a calculation, maybe it's a definition, maybe it's a little diagram sketch. Whatever it is that's going to help you dissect the question down and get to the correct answer, do it. Don't have too much going on in your head. There's more chance for a silly error if you're letting your mind do too much. Put it down on the exam paper itself. You know, your multiple choice questions are not going to be marked by a human being. They're going to be marked by a computer. So any white space on the page you can use to scribble stuff down. Because often multiple choice questions, they go from a certain topic area to quite a deep end that they're looking for in the answer. So if you're letting your mind do too much, you can easily get something wrong in that chain, something wrong in that process. When actually you know the correct answer, by scribbling things down, you're just formulating the process nice and carefully on the page, whereby you're not going to make a silly error. Okay, that's a huge piece of advice. When I was doing multiple choice questions myself in my economics exams, that was a huge tip I used. And my God, it made my life so much easier. I was getting full marks all over the place because of that really useful piece of advice. You do the same thing. Next, bear in mind, there is no evaluation in multiple choice. Don't be a hero. It's purely a theory test. What does theory suggest? Okay, that's what you're following, and then pick the answer accordingly. And lastly, when it comes to time management in multiple choice, my advice is to be really bullish. Most people out there, OCR themselves, would recommend a minute a mark. So that's 30 minutes for the multiple choice in section A. I think that's too long. And I think there are some questions out there you can literally answer in 5 seconds, 10 seconds. They're that easy. So I think on average, right, you can finish your multiple choice in 20 to 25 minutes. That's what I'd be aiming for. Yeah, there'll be some questions which are tougher. You might need to spend a minute and a half, maybe even 2 minutes. But there will be a rare number of questions. Most questions you'll be able to answer well, especially if your content is good, especially if you've been practicing multiple choice questions hard. I think the longer you think, the more likely you're going to self-create an incorrect answer. You're going to find a problem when there isn't one. Whereas if you're bullish, you're quick, you trust your content knowledge and your practice, you'll be able to fly through these. And that's what I recommend. Be quick, 20-25 minutes, use the extra time for your essays in section B. So quick with time management is a very big piece of advice too. Let's move on. Section B is going to be extract related, just like the extracts in paper 1 and paper 2. You'll have some written extracts, you'll have some charts, some tables, some data put in front of you as well in various extracts, just like you've seen in the previous papers. And you'll have a variety of questions linked to those extracts. As in paper 1 and paper 2, I do not recommend reading all the extracts at the start. The questions will be ordered whereby you go through the extracts in their natural order. So my take on it is just read the extracts, go through the extracts as you need them to answer the questions as they come up. So the extract reading, therefore, is in your timing for the questions, not separate to that. The questions themselves, You'll have a variety of short questions, just like in paper 1 and paper 2, 2 markers, 4 markers, etc., some short ones. And your job is just to make sure you're doing exactly what you did in paper 1 and paper 2 perfectly. So if it's making you define something, have a nice full definition. If you have to draw a little diagram, get that correct, get it accurate, get it fully labeled. If you're doing a calculation, show you're working, make sure your units are good. Whatever they make you do, just make sure you do that properly. You're not skimping, you're not being sloppy. The same kind of techniques to get those questions perfect as in paper 1 and paper 2. You're going to have one 8 marker, exactly the same style, that 8 marker as in paper 1 and paper 2, exactly the same technique. So my recommendation, a pro, a con, and then a final judgment paragraph. So 3 paragraphs overall. Again, use the extracts well. Hopefully your points, your arguments will all be there. You can latch onto those and you add the economic theory to form the full paragraph. So the 8 marker, nothing different to paper 1 and paper 2, same style. Just get that nailed on. The unique questions in paper 3 are going to be those 2 15-mark questions. They're not that unique. The way I would look at them is that they're basically mini 25 markers. Now, obviously, they're not a 25 marker, but essentially, you need to think of them as if they are a 25 marker. The key difference now compared to paper 1 and paper 2, these questions are linked to extracts. So the extracts will help you a lot, again, to form your argument. If there are policies you need to write about, those policies could be referred to in the extract. So you're going to be given help that way, but essentially they are mini 25 markers. So the way you need to structure these are just like a 25 marker, except with maybe one less point to what you're used to writing in a 25 marker. I know a lot of you are probably used to writing 3 analysis paragraphs and then evaluating in a 25 marker. My recommendation is for a 15 marker, you do 2 analysis paragraphs, evaluate thereafter, come to a final judgment as normal. That's the best technique. That's the best structure for 15 marks in paper 3. So like 2 of those, you should be fine. Again, if your content is good, just let the extracts drive the points that you're writing. Use the extracts well. Everything you write should be directly linked to the extracts, really. And that way you're kind of in the spirit of those 15 markers in paper 3 versus the 25 markers in paper 1. And that, guys, is all the key advice that you need to prepare really well for OCR Paper 3. Make sure you've taken this all in and you feel really confident in your preparation to do great in your final economics exam. The last thing I'll say is that I do have an exam technique playlist for Paper 3. Make sure you check that out to really confirm that you are doing the right things, you are answering the questions correctly. Otherwise, work hard, prep hard, finish with a bang, and then you can relax in your summer holiday. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Stay tuned for future videos. I'll see you in those. All the best.